Yes.
Excellent. Well, thank you for joining us this morning for the Oregon State Board of Agriculture meeting. Today is Friday, January 31st, 2025. I'm Elin Miller, Chair of the Board. This meeting is now called to order. I begin by asking Department of Agriculture Board Coordinator Carla Valnes to review a few housekeeping items for the meeting. Carla?
Good morning, Carla Valnes. I would like to remind people to please mute your phones or computer audio during the call to prevent unnecessary background noise. We request that only board members and presenters turn on your camera during the call. And if you are joining by conference call only, pre-meeting materials are posted on the ODA website, or information will be posted after the meeting. And a reminder that this meeting is being recorded.
Great, thank you, Carla. Carla, will you please call the roll for introductions? I'll begin. Elin Miller, Farmer Umpqua.
Chad Allen. Barbara Boyer.
Barbara Boyer, Chair of the Soil and Water Conservation Commission.
Brian Harper is unavailable. Ty Kluwer.
Ty Cleaver, farmer, brewer, barbecuer, Klamath Falls.
Miguel Lopez.
Miguel Lopez, grape grower, Willamette Valley.
Hey, Miguel, we could hardly hear you. Can you speak up a bit?
Hey, is that better?
A little.
Last time on Microsoft. Miguel Lopez, wine grower, Willamette Valley.
Much better, thank you.
Kirk Mogg is not available. Ellie Norris.
Ellie Norris, farmer, Umpqua Valley.
Eric Orem.
Good morning, Eric Orem, Hepner, farmer.
Josh Zielinski.
Josh Zielinski, nurtureman, Salem, Oregon.
Dean Simonich is not available, and Director Sharpelo Hansen.
Good morning, everybody. Lisa Sharpelo Hansen. I serve as the Director of the Department of Ag.
Others joining the call, Casey Prentice.
Casey Prentice, Oregon Department of Ag.
Rusty Rock.
Rusty Rock, Oregon Department of Ag.
Sunny.
Good morning, Sunny Summers, Oregon Department of Ag.
Deputy Director Sandow.
Good morning, Jonathan Sandow, Department of Ag.
Deputy Director Ing, sorry.
Lindsay Ing, Oregon Department of Ag.
Here we go.
Carla, are we going to talk about using the chat box?
Sure. Like to remind outside guests to please sign in to use the chat box to sign in. And just a reminder that this meeting is being recorded, and to please refrain from using the chat box to chat with board members on the call. That's what we have this morning.
Great, thank you, Carla. So again, the meeting is being recorded. And again, we ask board members and guests to please state your name for the record before you begin your comments. I'd like to now turn this over to Director Lisa Sharpelo Hansen for a few comments.
Thank you. So to the board, thank you for all the work you put in working with staff on the report. I think it's made great progress since we looked at it in December at our board meeting. I spent some time this morning looking through it. I think there are a couple of things I would encourage us to think about maybe and weave in a little bit more. I think there are some places where we can weave in some more around resilience in the systems, and not just the agricultural systems, but overall in the natural systems. The other thing that I noted as I read through, we speak a lot right now in where we're at with this report to economy. We don't speak as much to the three-legged stool in terms of environment. I mean, there were very few places that I picked up on that sense of, economy, environment. We talk a lot about communities, which I think is great, and that flows with many of the speeches that I've been giving recently. I'm trying to think, there were a couple others. So I have some wordsmithing and thinking about it. The other thing that I noted was in the section around transportation. I would probably just talk about the river systems and the need for them in the transportation realm, rather than the way that we have included it. And then there were a couple other things, labor and housing. I'm not sure that the ag worker housing piece necessarily fits in there. I think we really are speaking more to the overtime costs. So those are just a few comments for you guys to think about as you go through it on kind of my initial read at a high level, trying to get a sense for what we were conveying.
Director Hanson, do you mind jumping in as we go through? I'm assuming that as we move through this, that we'll have it up on the screen. And what I'd love to be able to do is get this as complete as we can. And I think if we all see what the amendments might be, we could just go ahead and move for approval at this meeting, if that's possible. So
I would just request the opportunity to run it through kind of one more review for form and style and tense, because we've had different people writing different sections, and I'd like to make sure we get it all in the same voice. And I think that would be helpful for continuity.
Okay. If we do that, well, let's see what that all looks like. And then if it's more for grammatic, tense, and other things as a review later, I see we can just go ahead and approve to go with it without having to come back. I just am trying to avoid us having to come back, since under our meeting laws, we can't just send an email, I don't think, for approval to people anymore. So anyway, okay. Cool. All right. So anything else, Lisa, that you want to cover?
No, I think it'll be good to hear the conversation, because I didn't participate in the earlier conversations, and get some more sense from all of you. So thank you for the opportunity to weigh in and just give you kind of my overall impression as I work through it.
Excellent. Well, I'll go ahead and turn this over to Jonathan and Lindsay then to walk us through. And again, my thought is if we're all seeing it and we can kind of talk through and say, yeah, that makes sense to make that change, then, we could probably lock those kind of things in and not have to have a redo. So does that work for Lindsay, you and Jonathan?
Yes, I might need to Oh, sorry. Yes, I might need to rely on Jonathan a little bit here, because I was in the middle of something, but yes, absolutely we can.
All
Just,
right.
I'd like to note one thing. The format that the document is in is going to be difficult for us to edit on the screen. So we'll definitely have the document up, but it's going to be hard to edit on the fly. So I'll go ahead and.
So it's not in a Word document, then it's PDF, I guess.
Correct. So hopefully we won't have too many edits, but we'll take good notes.
Okay. All right. Well, you can't convert it. I'm sorry. I'm not that good at what I do, but okay. All right. So
Carla, are you going to share it on the screen?
I will.
Or do you need me to do? Okay, great.
Can everyone see my screen?
yeah, but it could be a little bigger potentially if we could. All right. Thank you. Jonathan, Lindsay, do you want to just walk us through it? My thought would be if nobody has any comments, we can just keep going. So I know, I don't think I had any on this piece myself.
Sure. Do you want us to read it, Elin, or?
No, my thought
Okay.
is we could show it and then we could kind of go, if there's no comments in this, we can roll to the next section so we can save ourselves time. But
Perfect.
any comments on this section? Yeah.
No comments?
No comment.
All right.
For those that are on the phone, let's just make sure. For those that are on the phone, you've had access obviously to it. So where we were was just at the intro and now we're at the executive summary. So I don't want to lose your thoughts if you had some comments as we go forward. So now we're at the executive summary.
Yeah, so Chair Miller and board members, so this is just kind of setting up, right, I mean, executive summary, but of one, the report, a little bit of introduction of Oregon Ag, and then kind of putting in the like a tribal statement and just kind of how we interact with tribes and the recognition, you know, that relationship provides. And so I think, you know, really here does this capture kind of one, a good summary of where we're at, and then two, kind of the narrative and the setup that the board report hopefully conveys and articulates.
So I think you had, or Director Hansen.
Yeah, thank you. So on this executive summary, in the fourth paragraph, last sentence, we speak to the board's dedication to advancing a thriving agricultural economy. I would suggest a thriving and resilient agricultural sector. I've been trying to weave resilient into anything and everything I can, thinking about how we build systems so that they bounce back in adversity. And then in the tribal section, has the board interacted with the tribal community very much, or is it the department that's interacting with the tribal community?
We have to some extent in some of the visits we've had, but I think it's probably I think point well taken. I think it is probably more the department that this speaks to.
Okay.
Yeah, we can kind of broaden that out.
Well, on behalf of the Soil and Water Conservation Commission, conservation districts work quite intensely with tribes. So, I mean, I know it's not the whole board, but as the commission chair, we partner a lot with tribes.
Let's look at this. So 9 have been valuable.
We could just
Well, as
add
an
the board and
extension.
we could say the board and the department.
And the
then that-
department.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think that
And then
it just
that covers
bring them
it.
together. Yeah.
Good.
Is this the first
that
time
work,
we
Barbara?
actually mentioned? Yes, thank you. Is this the first time we mentioned tribes in our board report? I can't remember. Like that it has its own section?
No, it was in the 2021 report.
Okay. Thank you.
So in summary, we'll add the resilience up above, and then we'll add the Department of Agriculture in this section. So any other comments or questions on the intro, executive, or the tribal nations and Oregon section?
I
All
just
right.
noticed the formatting error. The
Say
last
it again,
sentence,
Ellie.
the last sentence under executive summary is a different font size than the rest of the paragraph. So
Oh, good catch.
I'll kindly remember the board members that we'll format this again, so.
And Chair Miller, I did mention changing economy to sector. I'm trying to
Sector,
mix it
yeah.
up so it's not all about economics.
I meant to
In our
include
wording.
that
Yeah.
too.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay, let's move on. Everybody has eagle eye going on this one, so. Okay, so basically this is the board.
If you want
We
a
need-
new headshot, go ahead and send it in now. But here's your chance to look good and shine throughout this whole report and be memorialized as such.
I also think in the statement about the board members, we need to look at what the statute says about 2 board members. We say consumers. I think it may say public. And I didn't get a chance to go look it up, but just sensitive to aligning it with the statute.
It does say public members.
Good catch. That should say, yeah. So that change, you got that, Carla? Public members from consumers?
I do, thank you.
Thank you. Great. Okay, so lovely pictures. Okay. And my assumption through here, this is all the latest stats. And so I don't know if we know any better than you guys on the latest of the stats, but are there any comments on regional facts and economic impact by county? Okay. Let's go ahead and scroll because we've had a chance to read this anyway. And again, this is basically the same format we've used in the past, right? So we're not positioning anything differently in this other than if they're ranked higher. Is that correct? So this is, again,
Correct.
it's based upon your stats. So, okay.
The numbers have been updated with the most recent ag census.
Great.
And
Okay.
Carla, for my edification on the 2.5 billion in exports, is that international or is that just outside of Oregon borders?
It would be international because we don't have any way of tracking outside of Oregon borders. The other issue, just not to get in the weeds, but that would include wheat and other things that are going out of Port of Portland that may not necessarily have originated in the ground in Oregon. But it's our best and the most standardized data for exports.
But it is international.
Yeah.
Well, it's so out of the Port of Portland, so it could be going to LA. It probably wouldn't be.
No, so the only way that we can actually track like exports, we can't track anything that goes out of state. If it's a private sale, it's not recorded. So we get ag exports data from customs essentially.
Okay.
So it is
So
export.
maybe we should say in agricultural, international or whatever, to note, Lisa, good catch on that because it's a lot bigger, obviously, if we look at domestic too. So would the right word be international? International ag exports?
I would
Or-
say generally state to state commerce is not considered an export. That is, just in general parlance, but if we want to, we can, over time we've used things like in ag exports to other countries, to other, something in that regard to kind of help people understand. Otherwise, but we can put it.
My reason for bringing it up is I speak a lot to 80% of what we grow here leaves the state and half of that goes overseas. And so trying to parse that in that sense, I say we're an export state because so much it leaves our boundaries. And so that's why the number seemed low to me, thinking of it in that space that I've been talking about it.
Right.
So maybe we should, for consistency, put agriculture exports to other countries.
That's great.
Does that work?
Yep.
Everybody okay with that? Okay, we'll make that change. Thanks, Carla. Right. Okay, moving down. Water and climate resilience. All right. This is where we may take it a little slower because these were everybody's words. And I like the idea, Lisa, if we don't quite have it in the right tense and all of that, that can be a cleanup later that we don't have to approve. But I think what we're looking for now is any substantive changes in how things are being, positioned and discussed. That word economic backbone is there again too. So I don't know if you've got a resilience comment in that first paragraph, but.
So a couple of thoughts, and some of it's wordsmithing. As I looked at this, I thought it made sense just to say Oregon's agricultural sector is no stranger to challenges, period. And then go into talking about climate, because there are many, many, many challenges out there that ag works with. And we could then talk about some of the underscoring for water. When you get down farther, it would be like the fourth sentence. We say particularly irrigation dependent areas like the Klamath Basin in Eastern Oregon. I think we might just want to say irrigated agriculture, because there are issues here in the Willamette Valley with water limited areas, just as much as other places across the state. And so just generally having adequate water available for irrigated ag is important, from something for you to think about. So I'll stop there. The next paragraph is just a tense thing for me.
I don't have any problem with saying Oregon agriculture is no stranger to the challenges, period. And then, we'd wordsmith that to continue on. I guess the question is, pros and cons of highlighting irrigated dependent areas. And this is my ignorance. Yes, a lot of it, there are many irrigation dependent areas, but I wasn't part of this work group. Was there, whoever was, is there a reason you wanted to highlight Klamath Basin in Eastern Oregon?
Ty Cleaver for the record. I'm going to say not particularly.
Okay. Okay.
Because do we consider Jefferson County Eastern Oregon? I would say that's generally considered Central Oregon, and Jefferson County had significant. That's why I'm trying to. The chances of missing somebody and inadvertently, with the language being the way it is right now, I think it's significant that trying to avoid additional ramifications later.
So after the word challenges for producers across the state.
Yeah, that's fine.
And delete from the word particularly to Eastern Oregon. Any heartburn over that? Oh, seeing none, we'll go with that change. Okay, let's scroll on down. Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. I was thinking about the same thing. Oh, great. Thank you, Miguel. I was thinking. Okay. So you said there was some language changes, Lisa. So let's scroll on up. Where was that?
In the last paragraph, let's see, it would be second sentence, sustaining Oregon agriculture and supporting communities across the state.
This is in the last paragraph?
Yeah, I had something. Okay. I can't read my scribbling as I was writing through this.
Essential for sustaining Oregon agriculture
and sustained strategic investments.
So after the
Um,
word, so essential for sustained strategic investments in
Investments.
Oregon agriculture.
Yeah. I
And
think
the
it just
rural
needs some
communities.
work, but I think it's the point being supporting the agricultural communities across the state, and we need sustained strategic investment to help us in this area of water.
Maybe even just adding sustained strategic investment in, and then play around with the rest of that from a wordsmithing.
That's fine with
Bro-
me.
Anybody have any trouble with, again, the sustained investment?
The only question I had about the investment is whether we should qualify what those investments have been from the board's perspective, right? Like, do we want to address sustained state investment, sustained state and federal, right? Given that there's, a lot of variability in this, and we don't have a lot of room to go into where those investments are, but I'm just wondering if we want to qualify it so that we're clear, like where those investments are coming from. And
Are any of those private?
So if you think about it, I'm going to put on, Barbara, help me with the OWEB hat. So there are investments that are state investments that come together with others. It could be private investments, in terms of a producer with matching dollars to
Right.
to make strategic changes in the water, irrigation, infrastructure, conservation, optimization, whichever set of terms. And that's why, I don't know if you add to it or you just have strategic investments. That's up to you all. But producers put a lot of money in too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, if we qualified it at all, we'd probably have to say states, federal and private investments. And does that add to it, or should we just leave it sustaining?
Sure,
my
Miller,
only
I think-
question was, oh, go ahead, Jonathan.
I was just gonna say, I think adding the public and private investments, I think shows the relationship between the two and kind of that,
Okay.
the kind of how beneficial they can be. So I think that's fine to add in.
Okay, so state, federal and private investments, correct?
Yeah.
And I like the private being mentioned because it shows that it's voluntary.
Mm.
And because when you do federal, it can kind of be mandated.
Yeah.
So I struggle with the phrase water security. I don't know why I struggle with that. Security is just such an odd word. I feel like, are we talking about supply? Are we talking about infrastructure?
So I think I'll put on my little Govy Speak hat and so take it and translate it. When we're talking about security, I think we're talking about having enough water for people, enough water for business, enough water for agriculture. And I think we've talked in terms of water quantity and quality. That's how I've thought about it, but it may not be the right word for this forum.
Yeah, Lisa, I think that's right. When the group we met, I think like security is those things. It's all encompassing of quality and quantity. So it's a holistic look at security, having access to those things.
All right, Barbie, you good with that?
Yep.
Okay.
It's where I want to hear security. I go somewhere totally different, but that's just me.
Okay. So go ahead.
Okay, Ty Claver for the record. Lisa inspired me to want to weave a new thread in this when she was talking about ecosystems. And I'm just going to tell you guys a quick story that I very vividly remember. And that was in 2021 when we got zeroed out and I was talking to the reclamation director in Sacramento. And I told him, how bad is it that every duck, every fish, every bird, everything that lives in this basin is getting told basically have fun dying right now, which happened, and I had to watch it happen. So I think if somehow we could talk about, there are a lot of ecosystems that depend on agriculture. And I know, like, in our community, the Klamath Basin, waterfowl hunting used to be a huge tourist draw here, and that's pretty much all but gone now.
So
So if
where
that
would
has
you make it?
any rel-
Where would you make? Yeah, where would you make a change then, Ty?
I'll have to think about it.
I think that
But
could be incorporated in that first sentence on the last paragraph, in sustaining Oregon agriculture, the ecosystems, and the communities that it supports. I'm going to tag onto you, Ty, and I'm going to say the word rural before communities is because I know agriculture supports more than just rural communities. And so that would be one thing I would think about maybe taking out.
Okay, and that was just kind of a big thought I wanted to throw at you guys and see what you thought of it.
I like the ecosystems, so we would add that, as Ellie had noted, and then I'm fine with deleting rural and just keep communities. And then
So
with that sentence, again, we'd end up at the beginning talking about federal, state, and private.
Ellie, you captured
work?
one of my markups, so good job.
Thank you.
Right. Carla, do you have all that?
Yes, I do, and luckily it's all being recorded, so I can go back and
Excellent.
get my
Super.
notes.
Thank you. Good deal. Thank you. Okay. Forgot about the recording. Thank you. Okay. All right. So labor and cost of business in Oregon. Maybe even letting us know which board members, I should have probably done this at the beginning, which board members kind of worked on this, and then we can kind of go to you for any questions. So who was involved in the?
I was on this discussion.
Yeah, who was part of this? Maybe somebody that's not here. Well, let's just move on through it. Did Sunny have an earlier comment that I just popped up and I didn't see? Sunny, can you?
Yeah, Chair Miller, it was in response to Ty's comment that if we, some language, if we don't take care of working lands, we're not taking care of fish and wildlife. It came out of a working lands conversation that ODF and W hosted. So it was just a language suggestion.
Okay, and would it go up above? We can scroll back up. This is not, So where would we put that?
Well, however, Carla was going to incorporate Ty's comments. It was just along those lines.
Okay, all right. Because he was talking, I thought Ellie used the word ecosystems, but okay. You have enough, Carla, to go on for this?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, all right, thanks. Okay, let's go to Ellie was part of the labor thing, so but any comments in this section? I think Director Hanson, you had some questions regarding the housing, I believe. But
Well, yep, and I had something in the first paragraph. I've got a couple in each paragraph. Sorry.
Okay, great. Okay.
So in the first paragraph, third sentence, we say seasonal and migrant workforce. I think at our last board meeting, we really started referring to it as skilled agricultural labor. So that was a suggestion to think about. That's up to you. The second paragraph, when we say when consumers prioritize the cheapest, I would just say consumers may prioritize the cheapest options because we're hearing about different generations doing different things in terms of how they put value on what they're purchasing. And so we might want to think about that a little bit more. And then in the third sentence, which can impact their ability to pay competitive wages. And I added and overtime for labor because of our discussion in December into that paragraph.
So let's go back. And Miguel, you were part of this too. So I'd lean a little bit more on certainly all board members, but on the subcommittee. So again, your first comment, Lisa, I didn't have any trouble with, but let's check it out with everybody. Can you repeat that?
Yeah, so the first comment was third sentence, first paragraph. It currently reads seasonal and migrant workforce. A skilled agricultural workforce.
Skilled agricultural workforce. Anybody have trouble with that change? Okay, skilled agricultural workforce it is.
Hang on. So do we want to roll that?
I heard, hey, Miguel, I
Yeah,
can't
can you
quite
hear
hear you.
I
Not
think the
very well.
speaker-
Go ahead, speak up a little bit more.
Let me. How's that? Is that better?
Better.
Thing is, I just found a button that I turned on and off here. Okay, so do we want to incorporate that into seasonal and migrant? It's skilled, seasonal, and migrant workforce.
Oh,
You could.
yeah. Okay, and I think I actually like leaving them maybe seasonal and migrant, so skilled, seasonal, and migrant. Okay, any trouble with that? All right, thanks, Miguel. Okay, and the next one, Lisa.
So we just started off when consumers prioritize. I think I like something acknowledging that some consumers may prioritize it. So consumers may prioritize the cheapest options because we know that some generations are starting to put more value on different things than the cheapest because they're value-based buyers. And so just thinking about how broad that statement is.
I agree. I think maybe something around thin margins and the market less than consumers. Because I think in some cases, even when consumers are paying more for organic produce, for example, like those producers are still having to keep their costs extremely low due to margins and extended supply chains.
So Miguel, I think for some reason things are popping up and I'm not getting back to them very fast. And somebody new just came in and I just admitted.
Elin, this is Eric Orem. I also think it's because our Oregon Ag competes on a world economy instead of just a local economy, and that's I think where our pressure comes, keeping our costs low so that we can compete. I know as a wheat and cattle farmer, that's our biggest. Everything is exported, so especially on the wheat side, 95%, 94% is exported. So we're always competing on a world in a world market and world economy. So I don't know if that could be included somehow, but I think most of Oregon ag is. I mean, from hazelnuts to blueberries. But
You bet. And I'm, I don't want to go ahead. Who was trying to speak? Sorry.
I would
Josh?
just maybe instead of saying when consumers prioritize the cheapest options, maybe we can just say thin margins and a competitive market puts pressure on agricultural business.
Okay, so let's try that out. Thin margins and a competitive market puts pressure on agricultural businesses.
Competitive market prices, I don't know, but
or a competitive world market.
Competitive world market. That's good. Yes, because it is a well, right.
Well, global even sounds better. Global sounds really good, but
okay. Global market. Okay. So all right, so we're deleting when consumers prioritize the cheapest options and instead, in light of thin margins and a competitive global market or whatever puts pressure on. I do want to raise the question here though too. I hear a lot from agricultural producers about being price takers, not price makers. Is it appropriate for us to say that's pretty basic? And if we agree, I don't want to also coin what might be perceived as, language and jargon that folks don't want to buy into. But I feel very strongly that agriculture, especially in Oregon, we are price takers, not price makers, because everybody says, oh, well, you could just increase your prices. No, because we have to compete on a world market. So would it benefit by adding that to here, or are we just good with that one change?
I think competition covers that, whether it's globally or locally. It's agriculture, we're in competition with, I don't know. It's not necessarily the consumer's fault that they're able to find something for less from somewhere else. It sounds like we're blaming their priorities with what's there, and I think just putting a competitive global market or puts a lot of pressure on agricultural businesses in Oregon.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely take out the consumers, that's for sure. But to me, you can have competitors, but if agriculture is a price maker and not a price taker, it's a very different situation on competition.
I suppose I see it as the same thing. Like the competition is defining the price. So.
Ty Claver for the record, another big thought to be food for thought for everyone. I remember after we had all of our presentations from the various fishing commissions in Newport, I thought there's really a lot of parallels between the seafood industry and agriculture right now, where Dungeness crab are kind of the beef cattle of seafood right now. And everything else is getting so overrun by imports that it's not even worth doing it. And, on the topic of being a price taker versus a price setter, I'm kind of at the point right now where I feel like my only way to be viable going forward is to figure out how to get to be a price setter instead of a price taker.
So with that, you would leave it out, not talk about the price taker versus setter. And that's fine. Yeah.
It was just a thought to throw out there.
Yeah. Lindsay, you had your hand up.
I thought that maybe we can address the price maker versus price taker as part of kind of the value added agriculture need. That's that transition, and where Oregon also, because of labor here, is behind the value add infrastructure for many of our ag businesses aren't as big as other states. So we could potentially add in that piece, which is that transition, I think, away from price taker to price maker, ideally. but requires, you know.
So do that in another section. Okay. Is that what you're suggesting?
For
Okay.
the record, I totally agree with Lindsay.
Okay,
It was
great.
the right thought at the wrong time.
Okay, great. Okay, so basically we're taking out the consumer focus and talking about thin margins and global competitiveness. Okay, I think we can move on a bit. Lisa, did you have another section
So
there?
it was beginning of the third sentence, we say competitive wages for labor. I was wondering if you should add overtime because you did the overtime resolution and how that impacts your competitiveness in the domestic and global marketplace. And take it or leave it.
You could say rising labor costs instead of competitive. Where's the sentence that we're looking at?
Yeah, I'm trying to look at
Second
the
paragraph.
First sentence.
Yeah.
Second paragraph, third line.
Okay, good. Thank you for scrolling back. Yeah. Okay. So which can impact their ability to pay competitive wages for labor. So Josh, you were saying what?
I was just trying to find the sentence that we were looking
Yeah,
at.
too.
What if we addressed it as, you know, it puts pressure on the ag businesses to keep costs low, driving challenges in pay and overtime. Or driven by pay rates, competitive pay rates and overtime regulations.
Competitive is definitely the wrong word.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah, it
it's
kind
just
of implies
rising,
that there's a choice
Right.
here in terms of wages, but yeah.
Rising wages.
Or increased wages or increasing costs for labor or
Something
is
like
that where
that.
you're trying to increasing costs for labor?
Anybody that's reading between the lines will know that what they're talking about, what it's referring to, I think.
Yeah. Hey, Miguel, you had your hand up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, Josh, you're absolutely right. What about fluctuating wages? Because competitive, it does work if we look at it from a standpoint of different ag sectors vying for the same group of people. Comes down to it, that group of people that we're pulling from. We'll look at where they're getting more dollars per hour from that standpoint.
So what language would you use, Miguel, there?
Yeah, I'm throwing out there fluctuating, but to change out with competitive. Josh does, like I said, Josh raises a great point of it's a weird one to kind of pin down to just one word. So it needs some more help there.
Could we say fluctuating and increasing? Because they are increasing, Kang. Fluctuating and increasing wages for labor.
Yeah, that I think that works. That's a lot better. Josh, like I said, he's making me think about it. He's like, oh yeah, it is greater than just one component.
And do we want to put that back on Oregon potentially? I'm not making a political statement, but I mean in terms of like
in Oregon, well,
with fluctuating costs and rising in Oregon with overtime, etc., so that it references again back to your policy position. Or you could do another sentence right after it that in Oregon, this particularly includes Oregon's ag overtime labor or something to that effect.
Ellie, you have your hand up. You have something nailed for us?
I'm just curious, can we, since we're not seeing the changes in real time, can someone read the sentence as it stands right now? Because I'm worried that it's getting very, very long and very wordy.
Yeah. Carla, can you do that for us?
I will make an attempt here. So starting with the second paragraph, thin margins in a competitive global market puts pressure on agriculture businesses in Oregon to keep costs low, which can impact their ability to pay fluctuating and increasing wages for labor.
What do we think? That work? A long sentence, but I think, go ahead, Ty.
Ty Cleaver for the record. If it were me, I would probably delete fluctuating because everything has only fluctuated one way for a really long time.
All right, Miguel. Okay, with no fluctuating, just increasing wages, cost for labor. Right? Okay. All right, are we ready to move on? Good. Okay. Anything else in this section?
So I do have a question. Is the paragraph about the ag worker housing grants, does that fit, or should we transition into producers tirelessly working to adapt, blah, blah, blah?
That was my question too.
Yeah, the ag worker housing just doesn't tie together with what we were saying above necessarily, and for me.
And it's also in the past tense. We haven't been able to make those investments yet. And
Current.
I think, depending on how the board feels, whether that it does alleviate the barrier of attracting a stable workforce, whether that grant will do that from the board's perspective.
I'm inclined to agree with you.
Okay, so let's strike that entire paragraph. Everybody okay with that? Cool. All right. Okay, here we go. Avian influenza and animal health. I don't know who was part of that group. Ellie, you were part of that? Or is your hand just still up from before? Sorry. Okay. Right. Well, let's just jump in. Who was it?
Chad and Eric and Rusty Rock.
Okay. So Eric, you may be able to answer some questions we may have if we have some as we go. All right, this section. Any concerns, questions, edits? Okay, Lisa? You're on mute.
You're muted.
Sorry. Oregon's poultry, meat, and egg sector plays a significant role in the state's food system, supporting, we have now rural economies ensuring local food availability. It's more than rural economies. Right. And so that's one of the ones you could almost just say a significant role in the state's food system, period, unless there was a reason to go on. I think if you want to talk about local food systems, it fits better when you're talking about the state meat inspection program, maybe, because we have a lot of very large poultry producers that are impacted.
Okay. Eric, since you're part of this, thoughts, does that work for you?
Yes, that works.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
I think we talked about the rural part earlier and trying to bring in the whole state.
Yeah, so we'll just, after the state's food systems period, then delete that supporting rural economies and ensuring local food availability. Okay. All right. Let's scroll on further down.
So the third paragraph, we might want to think about ODA's partnership with the agricultural industry, or you could say agricultural sector. And then there's a tense, I would say there's a tense issue there. And then the rest of the sentence, I had a change thinking about protecting human health. We have it in there, playing and supporting in local communities. We need to say something about protecting local health and supporting resilience, I think.
Yeah. So we have a tense issue up, so industry has developed. Well, anyway, I'll let you.
Yeah, we'll fix the tense.
Yeah, tense, okay. But then the substantive piece would be, we'd look at response reinforces the resilience of Oregon's animal agricultural systems, the environment. Could you do that? The environment and I didn't catch all that.
Yeah, you could add environment. I didn't in this one, but that's okay. You could. And underscores the role in protecting human health.
Check.
And supporting resilience in our food systems and communities.
Okay, so the key is underscores role in protecting human health and
supporting resilience.
Supporting resilience in our local communities.
Or our food system. You could, however you guys want to end it. I just think you have to hit human health in this one.
And resilience.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So adding human health and adding resilience to this. That work for everybody? You're seeing nods? Okay, great. Okay, moving on. Ag census data shapes Oregon farming future.
I have one more in your last paragraph.
Oh, I'm sorry. One more. Sorry, Lisa. Let's go back.
No, it's okay. I was being really, really picky when I read it. So.
Oh no, hey, I appreciate that. I wish we had given you a swing at it before it came out. Sorry.
So the last paragraph, again, we say rural economies. I would suggest communities across the state. And then the last
communities
sentence,
across the state. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And proactive and coordinated efforts to ensure Oregon agriculture and its food systems remain resilient and trusted.
So Oregon agriculture and its food systems remain resilient and trusted.
Take it or leave it.
I like it. I like it. Any problems, anybody?
Sounds
Looks
good.
good to me. All right. Okay, ag census next. All right, Miguel, you were part of this. Thank you. And Barbara, I guess you were, admit. Okay. Right. Any comments on this section?
It's all just the facts from the census, so I don't think there's too much there. I think that everything's captured.
Okay.
So in the first paragraph, if I may, Chair, a snapshot of the diversity of our state's agriculture. Get rid of Oregon, our state's agricultural. And then we go down to talk about the need to support beginning, I would say new and beginning and diversify from new and beginning farmers from diversified backgrounds.
Support new and beginning. So this is the second from the last line. New and beginning farmers from
diverse backgrounds.
Diverse
It's
backgrounds.
fine. Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
Lisa, if I might, Sarah Miller, We were specifically thinking like BIPOC farmers. So that's why it's
Okay.
diverse, not just the new and beginning.
Okay.
So, so what would you suggest that language, should it remain then, support
I think you can have all three, new and beginning farmers.
farmers and those from diverse backgrounds?
backgrounds. Does that still get to BIPOC, Sunny?
I'm not sure. I would ask, look to Miguel for thoughts on that, and Barbara.
Okay, so the way we were reading was to support new and beginning farmers and those from diverse backgrounds. Does that work? Miguel and Barbara, or would you want something else?
Beginning and diverse.
It would be support new and beginning farmers and those from diverse backgrounds.
Yes, I like that.
Okay. Miguel, is
I
that
think-
okay?
That works for me.
You capture veteran farmers that way too.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Okay. Moving on. Anything else?
The second paragraph, we have economies again. Do you want to say driving local economies or driving local food systems and sustaining rural communities? I've been
Well,
sensitive to the word economies.
I
So-
know, and we've changed the economies before, but I actually think it is the economies,
Okay.
right?
That's great.
It is the local economies. Is that okay to keep economies there?
Mhm.
Right. Okay. Any more as we go through here? And we are running over time. I think we will, but hopefully everybody can hang with us. So, or will be running over time, I'm afraid. Anything else there?
So I would
Okay.
also say enabling large scale production for domestic and global.
Okay, where is that?
It's in the second paragraph.
Enabling large scale production.
To meet domestic and global food demands.
I like it. Domestic and global. Yes. Okay. All right. Any more on this one? I think those were good changes. So, okay, moving on. Economic investments in agriculture. So I was part of this one, and I remember who else.
Ty.
I guess
and-
Josh
Nope.
or Ty
Ty
and
And Eric Berman.
Ty and Eric and I. Yeah. Okay. All right. So comments.
So just a couple, and I may not have read it close enough, but for RFSI, it really focuses on those small to mid-size operations. We still have a big gap for larger opportunity for larger commodity producers in terms of our infrastructure for processing. So just making sure that people don't think that RFSI fixes
Was fixed.
everything. It
Gotcha.
doesn't.
Okay. May say, so should we then be specific? Say initiative provided a transformative investment to bolster small and medium-sized producers in local food systems?
I'd look to Lindsay to come up with language. She always has good language around this. I'm just sensitive to what it does.
yeah, I think we can add that in terms of what it is supposed to do. I also want to caution on this one with the past tense. So RFS, because RFSI has been awarded, but like, so there, I can
Provides.
put in some language. But
Initiative provides instead of provided.
yeah. And then
Okay.
my other comment is the 2 million in USDA specialty crop block grants is an annual investment. So I think we could put some language in there. That one is a Farm Bill appropriation that we've had for quite some time. And so I think we could put a reference to the importance of the Farm Bill being updated, because that's based on census numbers and a new Farm Bill, right?
Okay.
In terms of those investments. RFSI was one-time ARF funding, like relief funding. So it won't come around again, but I think referencing the continued investment that has come through the special crop block grant program for those specialty crops, which Oregon is quite rich in, might give it a little more context there.
So maybe adding a sentence at the end saying, it will be essential to continue support of this grant through the Farm Bill deliberations.
Yeah,
something like
yeah,
that.
or reauthorization of the
Reauthorization.
Farm Bill.
Continue to, yeah.
Will, it's important that it's reauthorized to protect these investments in states
Well,
like Oregon.
Reauthorized and not, well, I guess reauthorized or not changed.
Yeah.
So is that okay to reference the Farm Bill? Nobody has trouble with that. I think we can leave it up to you guys wordsmithing how that should read. Okay. Next.
I think the third paragraph could use a little bit of wordsmithing. But it could say that something very similar. I don't know that it's worth us spending a ton of time on it.
So in what regard?
It just doesn't flow.
Lisa,
It just doesn't flow very well for me where we talk about farm to school and then go into the meat processing infrastructure grants. The flow of it is awkward.
I'm great with you guys working on the flow. We just didn't want to omit stuff that needed to be included. Just kept to kind of and. But Eric, okay for them to wordsmith, Ty and Eric wordsmith that?
Yes.
Okay. Ty, you okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right.
We'll work on that.
Yeah. And in the last paragraph, I would add ongoing investments. Start it off with ongoing. We need to keep them coming.
But ongoing. Thank you. Good change. Ongoing investments in processing equipment, blah, 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 blah. Okay, good. Good. Okay. Wildfires and natural disasters. I was part of this and I think Josh was as well. Lisa?
Yeah, so question on the title. You go into pest pressures. So should it be natural disasters and pest pressures, and wildfires are just one of them? We talk about wildfires, but I struggled with the transition to pests with the title of the section.
In fact, it was funny. We talked about that before we had our meeting. We didn't change the title when we had our meeting. So what you're suggesting is natural disasters and
Pest pressures,
pest pressures.
invasive pressures. You could come up with any number of way to talk about the bug of the week.
Can't it
Yeah.
just be natural disasters? Period.
It could be.
Josh, thoughts for the title?
I think natural disasters and pests is fine. It's pretty all encompassing.
So natural disasters and pest pressures. Is that pest? Okay, which Barbara, that's different than what you were saying, but is that okay to keep it in? Because we do add it. Now, I don't think anybody thinks about the result of natural disasters can actually increase pest pressure issues. So, okay. I'm all right with that. Okay. Everybody okay with that change? All right. Cool. Other comments?
So in the, I guess it's the third sentence, we say crop losses, livestock impacts. I would say crop and livestock losses and impacts on infrastructure because there were losses, and really just call that out. We still don't know the full impacts of the livestock sector.
Okay. So I'm fine with that change, crop and livestock losses and infrastructure damage. Everybody okay with that? Any problem? Okay, we'll do that. Excellent.
And then in the
Next.
in the next paragraph, we might want to weave in agricultural and working lands because that gives some of the
Yeah.
the nod to the ecological piece.
Okay, and where exactly? I'm reading quickly here.
So I don't have an exact place. I just noted it in a couple spots. I was like opportunity. So in the first sentence, second paragraph, provide protection to agriculture and working lands, minimize crop losses and ensure communities. You could do it there. The last paragraph, invasive species continue to threaten working lands and natural resources.
I'm okay with actually inserting working lands in both those areas if others are okay with that. Any objections? Okay. We're good with that.
One thing that could be added is the particular, I'd say invasive species and some pests affect the quality of our agricultural products. I don't know if it's that important to include that, but like invasive species and pests continue to threaten Oregon's agricultural and natural resource. And you're gonna have working land in there. But part of it is like the quality or the somewhere in there. But it doesn't have to be. I don't care that much.
Yeah,
Maybe.
Josh, I think we can put that in like when we talk about like the plant diseases often result in trade restrictions. I think we can also just like make it a little broader and just say maybe like market impacts because of quality, access, right? And just kind of list it off in there.
Yeah, that's a good spot. Somewhere in there.
So, Jonathan, do you want to kind of, just so everybody knows what we're all talking about, can you just maybe repeat that and where that would go?
Yeah, so I think where it says like the establishment of invasive insects and plants and diseases often result in trade restrictions. I think we can just broaden that out to say results in
decreased quality.
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, basically just trade impacts, and then list off quality, access, reputation, right? Like all those types of.
I think yeah, Josh, does that make sense?
Yeah, I like the word reputation. You know, like people buy stuff from Oregon because we don't have problems that exist in other parts.
Are we comfortable with letting Jonathan work with Carla to finalize that piece? I think we're still keeping the intent there, but we're now adding just specification on reputation, quality, and those kind of emphasis. So, okay. All right. Anything else? Director Hanson, did you have something before we left? Okay. All right. Okay. I feel better.
So I do have something on this one for you to consider.
Yeah.
Transportation and infrastructure for market access. Rather than and farm access, it's for, we need the transportation to get it. Yes.
Yes.
And then the other thing for you to consider is we speak to, current language is dams on 2 river systems. I think we could just say we rely on river systems are a component of moving agricultural products. So it's broader. And again, it's kind of like the irrigation one. If we get too specific, then we leave somebody out and they're like, what about me?
And I think also dams maybe is a trigger word.
It is.
It's really moving through the river systems.
So access through the river systems.
I think it's, you could just change it to say additionally, the river systems are a key component for moving agricultural products throughout the state to export in an affordable and sustainable way. And then, yeah. And then I went on for the next paragraph. Efficient and reliable transportation infrastructure provides access to global markets. Producers benefit from reduced shipping costs, blah, 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 blah. I just expanded it.
Elin, this is Eric.
Hey, Eric.
I worked on this one quite a bit. Dams was meant to be a trigger word. I'm sorry, but
no, that's good.
The Snake and Columbia River are not navigable for shipping without the dams. I'm okay with the way you're wording it if that's what you feel needs to be done. We would completely lose that system of transportation without the dams, and that's why it was kind of meant to be a trigger word. But I'll leave it up to the consensus of the board too.
So that's perfect, Eric. Actually, and that's your thing, and I don't think there's a concern. I think we should call out, maintaining the access relating to dams or something to that effect. So, because here I think for a audience that may not understand the system and how that all relates, it seems like the dams are providing the access, and I think we want to be broader, but we should add in potentially a sentence about keeping those waterways open and their dam systems so that the trade can continue to move is essential, or something to that effect, maybe.
Yeah, I'm okay with that, and like I said, it's totally up to the board, what the consensus is as far as going forward. It's so valuable to Oregon agriculture to keep those rivers navigable, clear to the port. So
I'm fine with the trigger word because it is about dams, and we might as well say it. And so I'm okay with that. And doesn't the language right now, key component of moving agricultural products through the state to expand, to export in an affordable, sustainable way? Lindsay, does that need to be beefed up, are you saying, or?
I don't think so.
The
I
words
think
are there.
we could
Yeah,
put in
yeah,
navigable, and then to Lisa's point about making sure that we're not just specifically speaking about those two rivers. I think we can wordsmith it to.
So, what do we feel? Because, well, I guess I don't know of other navigable areas that haven't already been dealt with. I don't mind the Snake and Columbia rivers, but I defer to Eric on that.
I'm not aware
Just
of
so
any
big.
other rivers in the state that are navigable for shipping. And correct me if I'm wrong. That's just my understanding.
Coos River in Coos Bay.
Yeah,
they ship stuff in and out of that, but there's no dams.
There's no dams. Yeah.
Is that considered the port though of Coos, or do they actually use the river itself for bringing stuff to the port?
Yes.
Okay.
It's just not nearly as long.
Right.
Good to know.
Maybe we could say additionally, dams along the Snake and Columbia rivers are a key component of moving agricultural products, and maintaining navigable rivers is essential to ensure that we can export in an affordable, sustainable way.
That sounds good. Eric?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Everybody else? Okay. All right. And again, we're getting close to running over, but this is important. So any other comments here?
So we got stuck on the second paragraph. I would lead off with efficient, reliable transportation infrastructure.
Yes. So that is, can we efficient, reliable transportation
Infrastructure
great.
to provide access.
Okay.
So I'll ask the question because I just need to ask it. You all, in the third paragraph, second to the last sentence, the fonts are different. Additionally, there's pressure from the federal level to breach dams within the Snake and Columbia River, removal of barge. Do we want to say that again there?
It's kind of repetitive of what is being set up above. I mean,
yeah. So where would you rather note Snake and Columbia, above or here? Because I agree it's repetitive if it's both places. Eric? I'd say it's better here than above, potentially, but I'm no river transport expert, but.
Well, if you broaden the upper one more and remove Snake and Columbia, like Lisa was talking, or Lindsay, whoever it was, you could leave this similar to what it is.
Right.
Maybe soften it a bit. But it is what it is. I mean, it's just calling out what's happening. But. Or
So
you take
Yeah.
the first sentence and you add the removal of barge transportation to the one up above. I don't know. I struggled with that when we were going through it. So.
Lisa?
So the note that I wrote to myself was something along the lines, switching it to the positive, maintaining access to roads, bridges, and a strong river system, and then lead it into whatever we want to say about it is important to agriculture, however you want to end it. But I was like, if flip it around to the positive, we need to have the roads, the bridges, and the
I'm good with
river
that.
system.
And I think noting barge transportation for agricultural products, not necessarily, you could do, again, not removal of, but just that barge transportation is essential in a more positive way. Would the board feel comfortable if the team work with, and I feel very comfortable work with Eric on what this should look like, and we would basically delegate to wordsmith this. I don't think we're really changing as much intent, and just to get that turned around and done. Is that, at least from a Robert's Rules of Order, a board can definitely delegate for final approval of a section of things, and that's what I'm just saying on this section. That makes sense? All right, is that okay with everybody? All right,
Yes.
so Eric, do you mind taking the time to do that with
Yeah,
Lisa and team? Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, all right. Is there anything else though to mention for the full group of other things? And Lisa, I really appreciate the fact that you were looking so closely at this. That's very, very helpful for all of us. Anything else here? Okay, all right. Let's, and then we talked about resolutions. We do mention our new resolution, do we not, on that, on ag overtime? So thank you for that. I like that. And then since we're signing up for quarterly Oregon Ag Briefing, that means we're going to write these things, no question, quarterly. We're going to get them to the legislature quarterly. We're going to invest that time. And so we'll need to probably, Lisa, let's talk about, and Carla, talk about making sure we have adequate focus and time at each board meeting to make, the content. Even if we had early drafts, we could almost say in advance of potentially. So anyway.
That's helpful because my question
Yeah,
to you was, do you want to continue to do that? Because we haven't done it since I got here. I mean, we just have none. So I wanted to be sure this was a correct section and we intend to follow through as a team.
Yeah, I think at least 2 board meetings we talked about, yes, but boy, if I got that wrong, board members, I think, and again, part of the struggle in doing this report is we've had none of these previous reports to pull from to pull this one together as a summary. And I think keeping in front of the legislature on a quarterly basis just makes all the sense in the world. But I think we did have to commit staff time too to help us on this. And I think that was, if I recall, that was what was missing, is Carla just did not have time to do any of this for the last few years. I don't even remember one going out since I've been on this board, but maybe there was one a few years ago that did. Oh. Any problem with that? You proceed? Good? Okay, all right. So we've got that. All right. Thank you, everybody. Wow. Appreciate it. And pretty much we are done. Could I have a motion to accept the report with changes described, in addition to the wordsmithing that will be done on the transportation section and general grammatic edits? That sounds like a decent motion.
I'd like to make a motion as for everything you just said, so I don't have to repeat it all.
Eric Warren, I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded, and any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
All right. All right, motion carries. Good job, you guys. So, and Carla, thank you for all the coordination to get us here. So, the one last thing we had to discuss is there was some questions about when we're going to be having our board meetings this year. And I'll take some blame on that because I had pressed to say, hey, is it really that second week in for each of the months? And Carla and I looked and thought, and we thought that that's exactly what. So I actually even resigned from a board, the Umpqua Community College board, in order to make the second week. But I'm on too many boards, so I'm happy to stay off that board. And I'm fine if we need to make it the first week. I will, however, have to miss December because I've got a company board meeting that's been on the books for 18 months for that week. So Carla, you went through and you only got a few comments from a few people. So we're talking March, June, September, and December. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, first week of the month.
Except for March.
Except for March. Except for March, because we have the legislature and that's set, and budgets and all that kind of stuff. So,
and just to remind everybody, the at the September meeting when we set the dates, months and dates and days, the board did vote to approve the second week of March, the first week of June, September, and December. So the error came on my part in recording it, and Elin and I had a conversation and we thought we were correct, but I went back to the recording and then did the poll out to you and asked for your reply. So we just want to confirm that it's the second week of March, the first week of June, September, and December, or do we need to switch to the second week of March, June, September, and December?
okay. Josh, you noted something?
No, he had to go.
Oh, he had to go. Okay. All right. Anybody have any burning conflicts with that first week on starting June? Sorry.
I have no conflict with the other dates. I just will not be able to make June. So.
Okay.
Probably ever.
Yeah, exactly. Because of, and even the second week was even worse. First week, you might be.
Yeah, I might show up. You don't know if the season's late. I might be there.
Right. So we'll arrive at that first week, starting in June. Yeah, Miguel.
Yeah. So we switched the days from Tuesday to Thursday to Wednesday through Friday.
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Yeah. Yeah. So that'll be now the what we'll be looking at. So great. Well, good, Carla. So we can get that out, and don't anybody tell anybody at UCC that I still won't be on their board.
I will update
public meeting. Oh no.
I'll update the calendar invites that I had sent out to the updated weeks. We'll get it posted on the website. We'll start making arrangements and off we go.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you.
Great. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate all the work and help. And hey, good job.
Thanks.
Take
Bye.
care.
Thank
All right.
you.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks. See everybody.